Hello and welcome to our 44th Holding Space for Self and Others. It's really wonderful to have you here, whether you're joining us live now or whether you're watching the recording a little bit later on. It's wonderful to have you in this space and present this webinar for you today. Our presentation today is from an amazing artist and presenter who is really in touch with everyday creativity, and that's what she's going to be presenting about today. Vicky Shukuroglou is going to be sharing with us her ideas for how we can integrate creativity more successfully in our own lives. And she's going to be sharing her experiences of doing it personally as an artist and in the community liaisons and contacts she's had with Indigenous and other people around Australia, and talking about a book that she's recently written and published. So we're really excited to have Vicky here with us today. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands that I come to you from today, the Eora people of the Gadigal Nation, and pay collective respects to Indigenous elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to one and all, and great to have you here. To start with, I'd like to do a little introduction of Vicky and let you know a bit about her background and what she's going to be offering us today. So as I mentioned, this is the 44th of these in our series, and the others are available to watch online. So the title of the presentation today, Knowing Place, Knowing Self, is really critical to the everyday creativity angle Vicky is going to be sharing with us. Vicky is a multidisciplinary artist and writer with a passion for activating dynamic, reflective learning spaces and a powerful sense of identity. Using creative practice as a vehicle and path to enhance empathy, awareness, connectivity, and innovation, Vicky supports individuals and groups to achieve positive transformation and valuable participation. She works with people of diverse ages and far-ranging cultural backgrounds. Her creative pedagogy is known for stimulating participants' sense of possibility, capacity, and motivation to learn and engage with their world in meaningful ways. I met Vicky at a conference last year and was really inspired by her work and her personhood. And I'm really excited that you're here with us today, Vicky. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you. Thanks, Jackie. That's a warm welcome indeed. Hi, everybody. Great to see your faces, those of you that we can, and hello to those that we can't see. I'm really looking forward to sharing this morning with you. I'm coming from Wurundjeri land, and in my everyday way, I acknowledge their history, their connection to country, to this particular place, and the care that they gave it over many generations. And that knowledge was developed and fine-tuned continually over time. I think there is a lot to understand in that space. We are all humans, so we have the same capacities, which is one of the really exciting things about life, I think. I also acknowledge all the plants and animals, waterways, fungi, soil bacteria, everything that lives and thrives if we allow it to. And it is with that acknowledgement of people and place that I do my work. And I attempt to do it with consciousness every day. I believe it is nourishing for other things, but for myself as well. I find it is a critical element of how we are that brings a sense of well-being. So I would just like us to dive right on in and ask you all to just draw a flower. So if you have paper and a pencil, preferably a grey lead, if you can all just draw a flower. And if anyone has finished or has made whatever they feel and would like to just hold it up, that'd be great. Great, thank you. Fabulous. Thanks so much. Now, I'm going to begin by showing you some of the work that I do. And when I say work, it's a manifestation of effort, I suppose, or concentration. It is about how I learn in the world, and it gives some indication to what I prioritize. So the things that you will see are demonstrations of how I wish to interact. Can everybody see those slides changing? Yeah. So in that process of observing and paying attention, there is a lot that I understand about the flow of interactions and what it means to give attention to something and what it means for us internally. And so in that stillness where we're observing something and there's a sense of tranquility and a sense of being in the world amongst others and amongst other life and our interaction with it, we develop a different sense of who we are, and our sense of possibility can open in a different way. So in some of the work that I do with other people in sort of workshop situations, I guess, where they're an ongoing process of interaction, I encourage a great deal of really quiet observation, full body movement and sensing of what happens when we move even the tiniest elements of our body, what happens when we shift our breath, what happens when we pay attention to those around us. And so through a whole series of dynamic exercises that are basically improvisations in a way and invitations to participate, we bring attention to our own mind and how it influences others. And so whatever we choose to focus on becomes the world that we inhabit. So a particular project that came from the work that I do was a significant journey, spatially and figuratively and emotionally, where I spent nearly 2 years, wouldn't say spent, I invested 2 years working on a book called Loving Country, A Guide to Sacred Australia. And I will just show you a few images from this book that speak to that sense of what it means to be in a place with its particular history and with its particular form of country. And so the plants and animals that live in a space, the landscape, how that feeds and informs us. This particular image is in Laura, in the sort of escarpment country right up north in Queensland. And these are ancient drawings, paintings that have been put on the walls as ways to learn, as ways of recording information, as ways of sharing, being together, and honouring the things that people appreciate in their world, the things that are important to them. And so the marks that we leave in our everyday demonstrate who we are. And this has been going on for a very long time. You know, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in caves in France, whether it's in the other parts of the world, these manifestations of the human soul, spirit, mind, capacity are present, and there is connection across the world. So the making of the book was focused on Indigenous stories and their wishes for people to understand what it means for them to be connected to their place and what it means for them to have lived through whatever history in recent times and further back, and what it means for those generations to have transferred that knowledge across time. And so I was going to different communities, speaking to people, connecting with the elders and sitting with them for days on end to just be there and listen. And so part of the really powerful process was that sitting and listening, paying attention and showing that respect for what it means to be with somebody. And as we move through different spaces in Australia, and we know that animals inhabit these spaces, the tiniest little animals that we probably won't see, the tiniest animals that have been evolving in this space for a very long time and have relationships themselves with different plants, different rocks, different grasses, different other kinds of animals. And the wealth of life in a land like this and its waterways. Mountain forests are all rich with history and story. So this is a page from the book, and this little lizard was one of many little lizards that I had really interesting connections with. And one might think that's a little bit weird, but it's very true that when you start paying attention to the finest of details and the life and energy that exists around us, our own self becomes much more animated and sensitive. So the more attention we pay to whatever is around us, the more heightened we are and the more perceptive. And so many a time I would be walking, and before I put my foot down, I would get a very strong feeling that something was looking at me. And sure enough, there would be a lizard. You know, there were times where I would almost step on these lizards sunbaking. Had it not been for that feeling, sorry, had it not been for that feeling of them almost telling me, I am here, pay attention. And so it's that sense of how incredibly wonderful that is. And at the same time, what is possible for the human being if we inhabit that space on a regular basis all the time, if we cultivate it and nurture it. And what does it mean for our sense of self and our sense of capacity? And so working on the book was an unbelievably challenging process in terms of the physical nature of it. I was on the road all the time, traveling through difficult situations in the sense that it was either extremely hot, it could be really cold, there were cyclones, bushfires, scorpions, you know, just the day-to-day challenges of being out bush in places that you're not familiar with, and living in a situation that is a vehicle, which is your office, kitchen, house, everything is within that space, and looking after your equipment, the cameras, the laptop, in that dusty, humid, ever-changing environment. And it was incredibly demanding and incredibly tiring, but all that nourishment that I was receiving from these little lizards and from all the other little creatures and the interactions with the people are what sustained me. And so it's how we can find that flow and that sharing of energy, or however you might like to describe it, but those interactions and that sense of connection that can really empower us individually as people, but with others. And these are just a couple of pages from the book, showing this in particular is Brewarrina, and the Brewarrina Aboriginal Cultural Museum, which is a terrific place, close to the fish traps that are fairly well known, and also full of difficult history, with the river being changed and fish traps being damaged. So the life of that space has shifted dynamically, yet the community works hard to maintain its balance. And here are more images from those Laura escarpments. And you can see all kinds of incredible creatures, some that are probably extinct now, some that are still swimming in those rivers, some that are scampering around the escarpments. So through that background, I guess, or that sense of who I am, means that I choose to interact with people in particular ways, and try to enable that same spark of awareness. And so when working with in this example, it's a group of grade 5-6 children. It's a question of how do we unlock that capacity, because everybody has it. I firmly believe that we are all very capable. We have creativity, we have imagination, we have that sense of possibility. And it's a question of how do we enable that shift in perceptions and removing that perceived limitation that is often built somehow through the ways that we live. So here we have a portrait drawn by a child initially, And it's really, it speaks clearly in many ways. And then we have these. And so paying attention to movement, to each other, to interaction, to what it means to create, what it means to make a mark, what it means to pay attention. And sounds, smells, textures, the fullness of the world is given that time. And I think time is a critical element here. If we are interested in knowing something, in loving something, in caring for something, including ourselves, we need to give it time. And finding the joy in every day is critical. And so if we look at these drawings, so that first portrait was quite reserved. You could see there wasn't a great deal of confidence in the drawing. And through a process of finding joy, where we say, let's create something different, all kinds of transformations occur. So let's say now with your flower, if you take another piece of paper and you draw a flower on a really hot day, or after it's just been through a storm, or after a bee has just buzzed it from being pollinated, what might you create? Or if you choose to draw your flower using your left hand or your right hand, or if you choose to do it with your eyes closed, what other possibilities might you create? Or if you choose to draw your flower using only triangles, or a continuous line without lifting your pencil. Or if in that process you also then explore the darkness and lightness of that pencil line, what else might you create? And how does it sit on that page that you're using? What does the space around it say? What does its size indicate to you? And so here are some more drawings by the children, also self-portraits. And so in that process, I would ask the children to draw a flower, and then we'd go through that experimentation of drawing the flower in all kinds of different ways, same with the self-portraits. And through that, have the conversation of what does it mean to feel something? What does it mean to give your attention to something? And in those drawings, which one do you respond most strongly to? And they would never, not once, say the first one. It's not the one that they would ever say, that gave me a laugh, or that was an interesting experience, or isn't that a bit weird? And I wonder what went on there. And so it's that sense of, we can do this for ourselves at any point in time. I never asked them to draw a really boring picture. I didn't say, do something that will bore you. I said, do something. And so the choice is yours. And so if we choose to approach any task in this way, any activity, whatever it is that we might be doing, what does it mean for ourselves and our sense of fulfillment, our sense of possibility, and that sense of expanding our creative capacities at any opportunity? And therefore, what does it mean for those around us? And so these were images made just representing sound. And so that notion of what does it mean to listen? And what does it mean to be not necessarily in silence, but what does it mean to pay attention to the world around us through our ears, through other parts of our bodies, that sensing that is a really full, complete way of knowing. So these are dogs barking, cars moving, birds chirping, hammers, chainsaws, all the sounds that they would hear in their area. This is what they created. And the concept was extremely challenging for them to begin with. There were a lot of looks like they thought I was completely mad. And that sense of we're reaching into areas that are so far beyond what we know. But that is the space of learning. And so that is the space of where new things can occur, new connections are made, new possibilities are opened. And it's that really relatively uncomfortable zone that should be encouraged to be inhabited. And these are still all sounds. And these drawings are observing, sitting, and drawing. This is an example of the whiteboard. This is a really large whiteboard. And all the words, ideas, concepts, connections that were developed through the conversation in a day of that really deep exploration of what it means to be in a particular place, in this particular point in time, with the people around us. And you can see, I hope you can read some of it. It's as diverse in its suggestion, from medicinal use of plants to agility, to caring and loving, patience, movement, bogong moths, bush onions, diarrhea, attention, weather, fish, kangaroo apples, baskets, murnong, textures, depth, stars. And these are all connected. There is no disconnect between any of these notions. There is a great possibility. A really strong sense of tenderness. It's a little possum. And attention is then given to the birds. Attention is then given to others. And so this is a particularly lovely story where children had met a colleague of mine who works in health as well, and she came to talk to the children about the hospital where she works, the challenges faced by the people who work there and the people who are going for treatment. And the children had developed a different kind of understanding of what it means to be a caregiver. And they created a whole series of paintings, songs, drawings, and a book, and wanted to go and give these to the people in the hospital. And so we organised this incredible trip from one side of Melbourne right across to the other, with all the people working in the hospital, and the children presented these paintings and drawings to them, and this incredible book full of poetry and writing and songs. And they also sang for songs that they had written and composed. And so this incredible sharing was affirming for everybody present, and demonstrated to the children that there is a legacy that is left, and that it is in care and giving and generosity of spirit and giving attention to things. And the paintings were on the walls in the hospital, and one of the people who was receiving treatment for cancer at the time saw them, and his company makes these head socks, which you can see on the little girl's head, and he wanted to use the painting on one of the head socks and then give those head socks away to people receiving cancer treatment. And so there was this incredible cycle and an incredible process of that sense of what is possible if we are focusing ourselves in these ways. And of course, for the children, it gives them an incredible sense of capacity, of autonomy, of who they are and what it means to do things in collaboration, and what it means to be able to unleash their creative self, let it be in the everyday, and what comes as a result of all that process. And this is another project in the same space, having paid attention to the plants and animals, starting by looking at a blade of grass and noticing the fine hairs on a blade of grass, the way it moves in the wind, the ants that might crawl up it and then crawl back down it. And goodness, it's one blade of grass and there's another and another, and there's hundreds upon hundreds of them, and they're all connected underground. And that sense of what else lives here, and the plants, do they sustain life? What else is here and what else can we do? And so the children all decided to take probably the most degraded part of the school and plant an Indigenous garden. And so they organised this whole incredible project where they decided what plants, when we had those conversations of looking at if we want to attract certain things, what might we plant for those creatures, and how do we nurture that space? How do we take responsibility? How do we become and grow a place that we would like to grow? And then, of course, they had the conversations with all the other children at school who would come and have a look. Sometimes they would previously gone through and made a mess, and now they were having conversations and saying, hang on a minute, this is really important for these reasons, and please don't stand on it. Please protect it. Please look after it. Don't throw your rubbish here for these reasons. And so if we think back to that first self-portrait, and then we look at these, what do we see? in its complexity, in its strength, in its determination, in its imagination, in everything that this embodies. You don't need always to draw what you see. You can draw what you hear or feel. I've started drawing differently, and now I can hear and see differently. The drawing brings emotion and movement that amazes me. I learnt that I can take a twist in ideas and have great drawings with lots of energy. I have from that moment switched my brain on and concentrating on art with a super 100%. You learn different stuff that makes you believe yourself. I have been learning. Invent your drawings. They mean something to you. We were freely to express ourselves. Now I am quite confident in my drawings and I can show them to other people. I learnt that I can take a twist in ideas and have great drawings with lots of energy. So here is a blank piece of paper, figuratively speaking. I invite you just to spend a few minutes drawing whatever it is that might come to your mind. And just pay attention to little things like, would you be drawing differently if nobody was watching? Nobody is watching. Would you be drawing differently if someone is watching? Would you feel differently if you were completely sure that there are no limitations here? Anything is possible and that nothing can go wrong. And if you're not sure what to draw, take a line, put it on the paper, and take it for a walk somewhere. Experiment with the pressure that you're applying with the pencil. What happens in your hand, in the tension, in the relaxation, and what happens to the rest of your body? What happens when you make long flowing lines? What happens when you make short, sharp lines? So I'd just like to, while you're drawing, bring your attention to the first slide that I showed, which was these rocks. And these rocks might be seen as, you know, just rocks, or they might be seen in their complexity within a place, within millions and millions of years of time, of their creation, of their transformation, of breakage, of abrasion, all kinds of incredible weather that they have experienced. And as likely blanks from which stone tools were made by people over a really long period of time, who would have walked to this space laughing and carrying on in their day. And as shelter for all kinds of different creatures, and as incredibly beautiful things in the world. Would anyone like to share their drawing? I'll just stop sharing screen. Wow. Fantastic. So maybe, would anyone like to say any words as well? Would you like to unmute yourselves and share in a conversation? This is a, you know, nice small group, so it'd be really lovely to hear from you.
I don't mind sharing.
Great, thanks.
Hi, I'm in South Australia and I'm really deep down in the country. So I just drew the sounds of the wind in the trees just outside the window and the birds. And there's a fly buzzing around and the wind and the wind.
Fantastic.
So that's just what I can hear.
Great. Thank you.
That's okay.
Can I ask what you felt in any way while doing that?
A bit scared because I'm scared of a white piece of paper. But then I thought, well, if the kids can do it and they can draw sound, I reckon I can do it too. So I just sort of tuned into what was happening. I've got the door open just here. So, and then it was quite freeing. And I thought, well, that actually does what a fly sounds like to me. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Freeing.
Yeah, well done you. That's brilliant.
Thanks.
Would anyone like to say anything else to add to that? Yeah.
This is I just started drawing this picture. There's the flower here. It's a dahlia flower. My friend just dropped me some flowers around this morning. I'm turning 60 tomorrow. And my friend dropped a bunch of flowers. I had my granddaughter in my arms and I took her into the room here because I was looking after her and she pulled them apart. And so I've got them here on the desk. I had them on the floor, but I picked them up onto the desk and I just started drawing. So there's a stem, that's the stem. And then there's all these flowers that are just, you know, on my desk. So I just started drawing those. But yeah, it just sort of just reminded me of how lucky I am to have a granddaughter, and you know, she was exploring the petals. And so I really, you know, my first one was just this, you know, which is like just a, you know, I guess a picture of a generic flower, but this was actually a flower, and what I experienced this morning with my granddaughter. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you.
Mm.
That's terrific. And you know, that is a credit to you as well for allowing her that space to do those things and to appreciate it without saying don't wreck the flowers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I Googled it to make sure it wasn't poisonous first.
That's a good idea.
And then it was fine, so I just let her go for it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Happy birthday for tomorrow, Robin.
Oh, thank you.
62.
Ah.
I have the fan going out in another. I'm in there's an ensuite toilet there, and I've set the fan up, and I just feel so totally at peace today with what you're saying, and just your voice, Vicky, and just really grateful for the whole experience to connect. And yeah, I just feel so at peace today. And
Thanks.
just gratitude. And so it's all about the fan sending out vibes. It's part of the vibe in here as well. It's just the calm. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Julie. That's really terrific. And, you know, that sense of peace, I think, is so important for ourselves every day in all kinds of really difficult situations. It's how can we access it? And of course, we're not going to always achieve it. We're not going to always, you know, sustain the ideal situation and the ideal response, but it is about noticing how we can create our own peace and what that means for others around us. And, you know, rather than cursing a fan because it's noisy, take joy in it, you know, see what it brings. Thank you. That's really lovely. Would anybody else like to share anything at all? Drawings, thoughts, feelings, ideas? Yeah.
I was struggling at the start, and I just sort of started, you know, just in the corner. But I loved your prompt around just take the line for a walk. And then mine just went for like a very long walk and a very convoluted walk. But that was really helpful, just to give me permission to do whatever.
Great. That's fantastic. And I think it's, you know, really shows the power of language and what both sides of the power of language, how it can be restricting in ways that maybe we don't realize, and how it can really unleash all kinds of feelings of inhibition or rightness and wrongness, or what it means to be perfect or what it means to be right. And so it's that really important approach where we say nothing goes, where, you know, wherever we are and however we speak, we have an impact. And so the words that can be opening can be formative of imagination as well, and kind of words that are maybe more physical, and what it means to, I guess, empower people through that process is really important. And, you know, I imagine in the work that you all do, you'd be well aware of all of that and how we can really let space and freedom to be without particular perceptions of what we're expecting, just allowing things to be. So yeah, thank you. Would anybody else like to say something, show something?
I just started drawing lines, and as I kept I sort of started there and just kept going downwards. But as I started to do it, it was like it sort of gained this depth, like I was walking down a set of stairs. And then I remembered these stairs that I like to walk down on the south coast, and there's about 100 stairs, and then you get to a very isolated beach. But it was like I was going into that and space. So that was really special. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's it's incredible what the mind can create, and it's incredible what we can bring to ourselves. So yeah, what a treasure. Thank you. Anyone else?
I was just thinking about, I guess, in how so many people are preoccupied with like tonal realism in art and not really connecting with, I don't know, other experiences connected to creativity or expression. And just thinking how it's such a easy, accessible, you know, and lovely exercise to do to create something that, you know, yeah, isn't about tonal realism. And particularly for children, I was just thinking about my son, who as a young child just loved exploring with materials and, you know, mark making. But once he went to school, it all changed, and he used to think he was good at art, and now he doesn't think he is because he's not good at tonal realism, you know. And yeah, I think sometimes at school they cheat, like they're just doing all the same thing, you know. They have an outcome that there's an expectation attached to without thinking about connecting to the experience or the materials in a more mindful way. So I really liked the exercise as a mindful practice, but also as a creative kind of practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're spot on, you know, I see it all the time with children in schools where they have a very strong sense of a good drawing. And usually those good drawings are really lifeless, but they are realistic. And so it's about saying, well, what is the purpose? You know, if the purpose is to make something that just looks like a cup or looks like a leaf, okay, but really, what does it mean to actually look like something? And it's about embodying that life as well. And it's embodying our perceptions and our possibilities within that. And so, you know, I would say to your son, just go for it. Like there is no, a good drawing is one that is full of life. And that is what it is all about. Yeah, thank you. It's, and, you know, it sounds like he's fortunate to have you encouraging him and encouraging him down that path, because, you know, that realism or making drawings that look like something is a really strong human tendency, because it's simple and it makes things clear and compartmentalized, and we can define things and we can put things in the right box. But by doing that, things are siloed, our thinking becomes siloed, our thinking becomes disconnected, and our way of being loses all kinds of complexity and sensing. And so it's such an incredible tool, which is so accessible and touches every aspect of humanity in a way. Yeah. Thank you.
Vicky, thank you so much for this presentation today. I know our time's nearly at an end. I want to thank those of you who are here and contributing to this wonderful conversation and experience. And Vicky is actually going to be running a group for us in a couple of weeks. So this is a bit of a taster of what she's capable of and the amazing processes that she can invite us into. I want to share a couple of things that we've got coming up, and I also want to give you an opportunity to win one of our upcoming $50 webinars. But I want to also tell you a little bit about the group that Vicky's going to be running for those who might be interested in attending more of this, because I think you can certainly see the benefits of what it is that she's doing. So I've had a good opportunity to connect in, and because we've been a smaller group, it's been nice to be able to talk directly with one another. Next week, we've got one of our new webinars, Supporting Children Through Family Change with Natalie Craig. We've also got Robert Grant's Alt Play Therapy Training. It's a 3-day, 12-hour event, so it's 4 hours each of those days next week for those who might be working with neurodiverse children. I'm starting a play therapy supervision group in a couple of weeks. It's a 5-session group that'll be run monthly starting at the end of March for those working with children or working with play therapy. Matthew Evans is running one of the 2 wellbeing programs that we're offering for the first time this year. That's a 4-session program that'll be starting in April. And this is the program that Vicky is going to be running for us, Everyday Creativity, Knowing Place, Knowing Self. It'll be 6 weekly sessions starting on the 27th of April, and it'll be evenings from 6:30 to 8:30. The next free event in our series is going to be the 21st of April, and you can register for that now if you haven't already. It's going to be on embodied writing as a healing tool. I wanted to offer somebody the opportunity now to win this free webinar that's coming up in a couple of weeks, run by Sue Jennings, who's an amazing play and drama therapist in the UK, in London, on therapeutic play for attachment issues in children. So in order to win that, what I'd like to give you the opportunity to do is to think about something particular that Vicky has spoken about today and how it might relate to you as a therapist in the work that you might do. She's given us some amazing sharings of her own art and the art that she's facilitated for others, and spoken very much about attention, focus, intention, and a sense of self and growing capacity of self. So given those concepts, and given what you've seen or experienced today, how do you think you could apply this in your life or in your work with others? If anyone has something that they might want to share about that in relation to that, if that's not too complex a question, put your hand up, and the first person to indicate they could reflect on a takeaway, Julie.
I just think I've received so much from Vicky today, just with going into myself that reflects onto people that I work with. You know, like the rocks. I'm a real lover of rocks, and just to see them in different forms, and how old the history of them, and the energy of them, and you know, the feel of them, the smell of them, everything about that. You know, to really pick it up and have a really good look at it and feel the smoothness and all the different senses that are involved with taking that in, and taking the time, you know, to do that, because we don't take the time, I don't believe. We I think the stepping down of, you know, just say somebody has anxiety, like a leaf, you know, to go and choose a leaf and to really look at it and be mindful of this leaf, and then other things come from that. It's just not about the physical. It's the tuning in of the whole aspect of the energy of nature, I suppose. And it's all around us, and we are it. That's what I think that's getting out of the box and helping people to get out of the box and look at things and life differently, and look at different perspectives to help them heal within themselves with what their existence is. Yeah.
Important. Thank you so much, Julie. I'll send you details about that webinar later on today. Vicky, is there anything you'd like to say in closing, or anything you'd like to say about how the group that you're going to be running will be similar or different to what you've done today?
I'm just grateful for your presence, all of you, and your participation, you know, being here and being receptive, and the attention you've offered. And I really do hope that you feel a sense of peace, or a sense of energized internal capacity, all kinds of different things, all at the same time, separately, however it might be. So thank you all. And the workshop series will be expanding on these processes, and we'll be exploring in more detail, and I guess in more actual making and exploring and all that we've spoken about today, but more deeply. So yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vicky. I'll send you all after today a link that you can go to create your PD certificate for today. And I'll also send you Vicky's contact details should you want to reach out to her email address. I'll send you the name and details of the book that she was talking about today. And I'll also send you details about the the upcoming course, the series of workshops that she's running as well, for those who may be interested. So any final questions? Oh, sorry, Vicky.
Yeah, I would just like to say with the book that it has been written, I co-wrote it. And so the parts of the book that I've written, I know were written with this very same ethos. And so the sensing and the heart and soul and the inquiry and everything that I've discussed today is within that book, in a very different sort of form in a way, but it is all of the same ethos.
Thank you so much, Vicky. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to contacting you later today. And if you could join me in thanking Vicky for her presentation today. I know we've all really enjoyed it. We've got a lot out of it. So
Thank you all. It's been lovely to meet you.